Hi, everybody. My mouse didn't work for a second, so there was the little bit of a jarring clip for us. But it's been a long week, so if that's the worst thing that happened to me this week, I am very, very happy about that. Guys, welcome back to another episode of Big Apple Hockey. It is fantastic to be back, always for a big show. I am your host, Marc Williams, and you can see I am clean shaven once again. And speaking about people that are clean shaven, I'm Mr. John Folkowski.
Top 3 Billy Joel songs. Miami 2017, the Songs in the Attic version, The Ballad of Billy the Kid, and Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. Gotta be the top 3.
That's a good top 3. I think I might have a different top 3 than you. And of course, Mr. Anthony LaRocco recovering from Friday's loss.
Yes, I am. I am recovering. Sting is starting to ease off. And by the way, as my little, bottom header here says, how old is Joe Pavelski again? 26?
He definitely found like the fountain of youth last night.
So
that's amazing. The oldest player ever to score 4 goals in a Stanley Cup playoff game.
So we're gonna keep the whole music theme going since I've got Judas Priest in mind. But for Joe Pavelski, we're gonna fire up the Alexa and have her play "What's My Age Again" by Blink-182.
Well, we're gonna stick with Billy Joel and stay in the New York state of mind as we go to the A block right now, guys, where the New York Rangers and New York Islanders ended their seasons last Monday night for the Rangers and Friday night for the Islanders. I'll still be doing the 60-second game reviews. There were a ton of 60-second game reviews I had to do this week because there has been an unbelievable first round. We're going to go back and reflect on the first round right after we talk about the 2 New York teams. You can check us out on Rumble. And, of course, Big Apple Hockey Trucker hats are available now. Click the link below to go to the eBay store. And, of course, the A block is powered by SeatGeek. Use the promo code Big Apple Hockey. Even if you're not going to a hockey game right now, it's still worth it. $20 off your first order. So the New York Rangers season ended Sunday night, guys, in absolutely well, he's got some thoughts and I got some thoughts too there, Core. And it ended with an absolute dud of a game. And you kind of thought it maybe Phil could have paralleled the 2013 when the Capitals came out and really blitzed Henrik Lundqvist, and they were able to withstand it. And then they got that goal from Aaron Asham and then went off and running. Instead, nothing. The Rangers, 11 even strength goals in this series. They're tied with the Islanders in that aspect. Igor Shesterkin, 3-4, 1.96 save percentage, 931 save percentage, 1.96 goals against. Akira, we're going to come back to that number in a second. Akira Schmid, 4-1, 2 shutouts, and a 9.51 save percentage.
Not tested
at all. And of course, we're going to be talking a lot about him. His name's going to come up. Artemi Panarin. And Phil, as we talked about before, if I showed you these numbers from Igor Shesterkin, 196 goals against and 931 save percentage, you'd say how many games did they must have won in 5, not that they lost in 7. So here's the question for you: is this season a failure?
An abject failure. What kind of question is this? You were just layup talking.
Well, actually, you know what? Giannis Antetokounmpo said it's not a failure when he was asked about that, but I do have to ask this question, and the reverse of this is going to be coming for the Islanders in a moment. So is this a failure?
Yes. How is this anything but a failure? You went ahead and you got Vladimir Tarasenko, Patrick Kane, and Nico Mikkola for nothing. You got them for pennies on the dollar. And then the team just absolutely crapped the bed in the worst possible way. This is an absolute failure. And it's not only a failure because they lost in the first round, but it's an absolute failure because 2 of the absolute favorite teams that everybody predicted to get to the Stanley Cup Finals both got knocked out by inferior teams, giving you a very easy road to the Stanley Cup Finals and possibly even the Cup. This could have been this year. This is a failure. There's a lot of times coming up with this team, or a lot of things I should say that'll be coming up with this team that really kind of encompasses everything. I've got some inside information that moves are going to be happening, and they're going to be happening very soon. And Gerard Gallant is probably gone. And I'm not, I know that everybody's going out there and saying it, so it doesn't sound like I'm out on a limb, but no, I've got some confirmation from someone who knows people within the organization that he's gone. He's gone. And I think there might be a move made that may end up drawing the ire of some of the fans. And it might be Alexis Lafreniere who might end up being moved. I'm not 100% certain on that one, but there's just a lot of chatter about it. And he's a number 1 overall pick that hasn't really lived up to the expectations yet. So there's a big decision for them to make on him this offseason. And I know he's young and he still has time, but there's a gaping hole at right wing, and there's a logjam at left wing. And if you can move him for a younger, still youngish, but established top 6, productive, reliable top 6 winger on the right-hand side, then you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You solve your logjam problem at left wing, and then you get some depth at right. The thing is with this team, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to give you the rant that you're looking for, Core. I'm just past the point. I'm just, at this point, I'm somber. No, the general manager does not need to be fired.
Well, we'll get into that, Rich, why he doesn't
We'll get into that at one point, yes. But he does not deserve to be fired. He went out and made moves that any general manager, if you ask anyone in the NHL, any executive, if they would have made those moves and what they would have thought that would have done to their team, they would have been doing cartwheels naked in the street to get those guys at the price they got them for. This isn't on Drury. I'm telling you right now, it's not on Chris Drury. It's on 2 units, 2 entities. It's on Gerard Gallant for the lack of adjustments that he made, and it's on the leadership group for being as soft as they were. And like I told you, heads need to roll for this. People that wear letters on this team need to be stripped. Mika Zibanejad, unless he was playing with some major injury, which I don't think he was, he needs his letter gone. Artemi Panarin, this is the 3rd time in 3 playoff appearances that you have played like a spineless sack of shit. There is no reason for you to hold an A on your jersey anymore. And Jacob Trouba, for you to say that they played well and take 0 accountability for the lack of leadership and the lack of heart that you played with, and that's pathetic. Jacob Trouba is the worst captain that I've ever seen in my life as a Ranger fan. I've been watching this team for over 30 years. I would rather watch Brian Leetch try to captain a ragtag pile of shit that he had to captain from 1998 to 2000. Because the way that Jacob Trouba is as a captain, he's a lifeless joke. He's a joke. And he did nothing to hold back and kind of hide that, they weren't happy with Gallant. And the Kane and Tarasenko moves were terrible. Look at results. Okay. So you're going to tell me that Gerard Gallant has nothing to do with that? Gerard Gallant made adjustments. Gerard Gallant got his team going. No. You know what he did? He called them soft. He laid all the blame at their feet, and he didn't do his job. Part of your job as a coach is to motivate.
You blew it!
Yeah, and if you can't motivate your team, you can't get your players to play, and you can't get that roster to produce, then that means that the problem is not just them, but it's the coach too. Drive play, we have guys who drive play. We do have guys who drive play. But if they're going to play like that, then the coach has to get on top of them. This is Roger Nielsen all over again, 92-93. He was too much of a player's coach. And Stephen Valiquette talked about it. He said that this team has a pattern of going from players' coaches to barkers. And look at it over the years. Nielsen to Keenan, Campbell. You had Colin Campbell in there for a bit. Then they ended up going to John Muckler. John Muckler went to Tortorella because he replaced him interim. Then they went to Ron Lowe, Brian Trottier, and then Glenn Sather, and those were all players' coaches since then. Tom Rennie, players' coach.
Tortorella.
Barker. AB, players' coach. Quinn, Barker. Gallant, players' coach. Cycle tells me that somebody's going to come in and it's going to be a real authoritarian, like I've been calling for the last year and change now. So you cannot continue to go forward with players coaches with these guys because they've proven incapable of being able to lead themselves. They need a coach that's hands-on and is going to take control and take the reins. The one last thing I'm going to say is that Chris Drury called out Artemi Panarin after last year's postseason performance. He was disgusted by it. Something tells me that those talks are going to be revisited. Guys that Panarin would want to be back, like Kane and Tarasenko, are not being brought back. And there might be some words exchanged in that dialogue that may not make Artemi Panarin happy. So you're looking at that no movement clause and saying he's immovable. I wouldn't rule anything out with him. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I wouldn't rule anything out because if you remember the way that Drury handled Vitaly Kravtsov, I can only imagine how he's going to rip into Artemi Panarin after a second straight pathetic performance in the playoffs. Sorry for the alliterations, everybody, but it was necessary. So with that being said, I think there are some big moves that might end up happening this offseason. And another thing is that this team reacts cyclically, like in a cyclical type way. Remember, in 95, they got bullied around by the Flyers. And what did they do? They traded Zubov and Nedved to Pittsburgh for Robitaille and Samuelson because they wanted size. And then 2010, they lost to the Flyers in that back-to-back home and home to end the season. What did they do? They passed up on Kuznetsov, Fowler, and Tarasenko to draft Dylan McIlrath because it was a panic move. And then you had Pavel Buchnevich and Artemi Panarin get ragdolled by Tom Wilson. What did they do? They traded Buchnevich because, we can't afford to sign Pavel Buchnevich to a $5.5 to $6 million a year deal, but we can turn around and bring in Barclay Goodrow at $3.6 million, Sammy Blais at $1.75 million, and Ryan Reeves at $1.75 million. And then Patrick Nemeth on top of that for another, $2.5 million? So they wasted, $8 million on a bunch of crappy depth players because they wanted to get rid of a skill guy and have an excuse to do so, because toughness. You sacrificed offense. And now this team has been horrendous 5-on-5 the last 2 years. They got caved in again at 5-on-5 against the Devils after game 2. So, you know what? They're going to make some sort of reactions. They're going to go out and they're going to get speed. They're probably going to get a little smaller. But I'll tell you right now, Drury has his work cut out for him, and I think fireworks are going to happen within the next few weeks. I think Joel Quenneville might end up on Broadway.
Anthony, how about that for a bombshell? Joel Quenneville might end up on Broadway.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I've heard the, speculation over it. And, I already made my feelings clear on it. I think everyone deserves a second chance to an extent. But like I said in our text, Quenneville wasn't an 18-year-old kid who had poor oversight. He's a grown man that turned a blind eye to something serious that was going on. And, based on a lot of comments I've read from Ranger fans, and, they say they don't want any part of him. So if it does happen, they are going to get a lot of backlash, but Dolan doesn't care. If he feels that that's the best move to make and Bettman reinstates him, he'll do it. I just, from a PR standpoint, I think, I think it will be a little bit of a nightmare. And then especially if they hired him and let's say they struggled early, they would really get on him. So But needless to say, I do think they are going to move on from Gallant. There are other choices out there. There's Quenneville, there's Laviolette. There's Sutter, although Sutter seems like he's done. He only really wants to be like out by this farm in Western Canada, but and just other guys who have been out there from previous seasons. So there's a lot of different candidates. For instance, that said today the Capitals are going to interview Jeff Halpern, the Lightning assistant. So guys like that could get a look. So you never know which direction they're going to go, but I do think Gallant is in a little bit of trouble. And Phil said a lot of what I wanted to say. Sure, you have your opinions, Mark, too, but
and he said a lot of what I wanted to say too, Anthony. So it's all right.
Artemi Panarin's a joke. He is a clown. He puts up a lot of points in the regular season, but come playoff time, the guy disappears the minute the stakes go high with physical play. He's lazy. And if I were a Ranger fan, I would rightfully be pissed off at the guy. He makes $11.6 million a season, and this is a guy that is going to no-show and not exert any sort of visible effort. I mean, it's a shame, really. It's a shame, and he deserves to be moved. But again, there's no movement clause, and then there's the salary part of it. So I don't think it's impossible, but I think it is going to be really difficult. I'm sure Drury's going to do his due diligence and certainly give it a try. But Mark, you brought this up not that long ago about Panarin his no movement clause. Where is he going to wait to go? I mean, he's not going to want to go to a team like Anaheim. But then again, he is the Russian. Seems like, he might like the whole beach living. So, maybe he would. But I don't know. I don't see him waiving it to just go to a bad team just because they have the cap space to fit him. So it's going to be hard. But I think the Rangers really would be better off if they can move him. As far as Lafreniere, I think they should move him too. I think they should move him while they could still maybe get some sort of value for him.
Although we're going to cover that more in a little bit.
And, Alex DeBrincat is a name that, sure, the Rangers would have to add. Certainly wouldn't be a one-for-one type move. But, if they could get DeBrincat with adding a couple more assets to Lafreniere, that would be a great move. Lafreniere is a bona fide goal scorer. So there's some interesting decisions they have to make this offseason. I'm sure in the coming weeks it's going to, ramp up. And as we get into June, the flames are going to come even higher in terms of, what's going to go on there. But to bring it all back to the original question, it's an abject failure. I mean, this is a team that went to the conference finals last year. They're expected to, go there again. And then they had elite talents like Tarasenko and Panarin at the deadline. And they have this type of performance. It's total failure. Total, absolute failure. And Drury's got his work cut out for him now.
If it was just simply put that the Rangers lost the best of 7 series to the Jersey Devils, the words not as much of a failure or not a complete failure would be in there. When you're up 2-0 coming back to your building, and let's face it also, and I've said it before, Timo Meier doesn't fall on Igor Shesterkin. Shesterkin doesn't get a penalty for punching him. Devils don't get that power play. Maybe the Rangers in that game 1-0. But the way the Rangers played in this series, there's nothing saying that the Devils wouldn't have won 4 straight after that. Because Lindy Ruff made adjustments. We're still waiting for Gerard Gallant to make an adjustment. Calling people out in a press conference is not an adjustment. Fix things. Putting guys in a lineup in a blender. No, that's not an adjustment. Lindy Ruff changed around their forecheck. Lindy Ruff did everything to take the Devils' speed and just trap the Rangers in their own end. They couldn't break out. They couldn't break in. Nobody drove to the net. So that was another problem, which is another problem with Panarin. That's another reason why he's got to go. But I'm going to wrap my comments up really right there, but I want to go with what Phil said. In 95, they decided to try to play against the Flyers and Devils because they lost the Flyers in the first round. That was the shortened season right
Second
after.
round.
So, sorry, second round. Yeah, they got swept.
Yeah, they beat Quebec.
So they tried this set of team to play New Jersey and Philadelphia. Phil, who did they get in 1996?
They got Yari Curry, Shane Sherla, and Marty McSorley at the deadline for Ferraro, Matisse Morsham, Ian LaPerriere, and Nathan Lafayette.
And who would they get in the playoffs?
And they ended up playing Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh smoked them in the second round because Pittsburgh skated server for them.
And Montreal, their speed, they did the same thing too.
Yeah, they lost their first games, then reverse swept them afterwards.
Now, usually I would say to you, don't focus on making your team better. Because I know when guys like Richie are saying it right now, that Drury screwed up. We also talked about this when they acquired the guys. They're going to need talent sooner or later. You can't win a Stanley Cup only in grit. That's what the 2012 Rangers tried to do. And you need to have a better mix. That being said, you got to build this team to beat the Devils because they're going nowhere. And they just woke the sleeping giant. Because this team is going to be there. Also, when they lost Game 7, no-show. Yeah, because it was sort of like Igor Shesterkin was in a shooting gallery. There were so many attempts. I looked up and it said 18 shots. Are you kidding? Well, it seemed like every single time I looked up, there was a shot on Shesterkin. So the Rangers, what they have to, first off, it's sickening what Gerard Gallant did in this series. And I was one of his biggest advocates to get here. Biggest cheerleaders, and I became one of his biggest critics because you can't win with just platitudes. You can't be just, everything's looking fine. We're going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. His press conference that I was too busy doing the postgame for, what he was saying after Game 5, you kidding me? You kidding me? No. They need a guy that they need an X's and O's guy, and they need a guy that's going to get through to them because just saying, do better isn't going to work. All right.
And that you know what, you brought up a good point because we talked about how they address things in a cyclical type way in terms of like panic moves and reactionary type moves. Now they're going to have to adjust the Devils because the Devils are going to be around. So now you're going to have to go and get all the speed and all those guys that can, skate. And thank God they have someone like Brett Bard, who I think is going to be a real, he's going to be a key player for them for years because they're going to need him to be a real good two-way player for the, against the Devils. They're going to need him to be like a Yanni Gourde type player against the Devils because that's what they're going to need with the amount of skaters that the Devils have in that lineup. Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes. I mean, you have Timo Meier who's going to be there for a while. He's still in his prime years. But you have other guys, Mercer, who can skate. Heischer, who can skate. I mean, these guys can all skate. The Rangers have to start working on the skaters that they have, start improving their skating, and then focus on drafting and bringing in guys who are skilled and that can skate. I'm telling you right now, because they look like they're kicking themselves hardly for not drafting Tim Stutzla over Lefty Lafreniere, even though it was the right move.
And Anthony, Roth instead of Stutz, reason enough. No, but that wasn't a jury's call. It was Jeff Gorton. But I'm sorry, and I want to get to the Islanders right now. Two things to say about that. First, Jeff Gorton and John Davidson made that decision, and so would other GM.
Every other GM would have done the same thing.
I said 32. It's 31 of GMs. My mistake. Math was off.
Well, 30 at the time.
I worry, Anthony, about whether or not if they did go the assistant route, you're not winning a Stanley Cup next year. And then it's the other thing just to say on this is somebody that's not getting enough blame on this collapse, Jeff Gorton, because the Rangers are hamstrung by Trouba and their contracts because they can't ever deal them because, $11.5 million isn't enough of a no trade clause. Yeah, give him a full no move. He's never going to move. And then speaking of that never moving, fucking Trouba. Thank God you made your presence felt with 13 minutes to go in Timo Meier's face. You know what would have been great to do that? Sometime around game freaking 3.
Trouba, what's even more maddening about the Trouba contract is Gordon was bidding against himself for that contract.
I was just going to say that. Oh, my God.
What was he doing?
He forced himself to New York. You could have just turned around and told him, hey, you want to be here? Take a lesser deal. Take $6 million and like it. Yeah. But no, you had to go and give him 8 for what reason?
And I keep going over this. By the time he was a month in, He already lost his power play status. He was the second unit defenseman. Like, what? Jeff Gordon, you get no blame for this?
That's why Jeff Gordon's not here, though.
Yeah, well, no, he's just not here for Tom Wilson. There's other reasons why Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, well,
there are some issues.
And that's why he's not a great general manager. That's why he's overrated.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, keep talking because we're gonna put up a new poll question for you right now. Right now, we have what was your reaction to the Game 7 loss? Wasted opportunity is 61% of you. That's the one that wins. Perfectly summing up the season, 23%. Extreme disappointment, 3%. And also lost a better team. Because, by the way, here is one thing that is true. The Devils, 112 points this year. The Rangers didn't lose to a team 40 points below them like we're going to be getting into the B block. But we have to get to the Islanders. We have spent way too much on this. But first, we have to do a DraftKings read. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on an NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't exciting, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot and an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. I'm just staring right now still at our 10-minute Panarin stats. It's still so ridiculous. Because we need to get to talk more about the other New York team that had their season end this week, the New York Islanders. They fell 2-1, Game 6 to the Carolina Hurricanes on two just really bad bounces. And Ilya Sorokin series showed why he's Ilya Sorokin. 2-4. We're saying he had a great series. 2.60 goals against and a 29 save percentage. I mean, and Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri, they look like they're strongest. 5 points each. Andy, what is your thoughts on the end of the Islanders 22-23 season?
I mean, disappointing. It's like a double-edged sword. And back in, January, February, I think their percent to make the playoffs was probably like 6 or 10%. And, after Barzal went down, everyone wrote him off, and that's when they got really hot. So, I like the character they showed to dig themselves out of that hole, and get into the playoffs. However, I thought a little bit of the round one matchup against Carolina, and then ultimately losing. They kind of shot themselves in the foot. They took too many penalties, which put the Hurricanes on the power play when it was clear that when the play was 5-on-5, that it was a close series. So they let special teams determine too much of the series. And then going back to also shooting themselves in the foot, they made a lot of errors that the Hurricane, because you can't really turn the puck over against the Hurricanes. They pressure and forecheck hard enough as it is. When you give them freebies, that makes it even worse. Like, Romanov's fanning of the puck at in center ice, and that you basically gift him a 2-on-1. Game 2, fluke goal. Sebastian Aho whacks the puck out of midair into his own net, takes a bounce on the ice like a baseball and goes in. Those are fluke type things that the Islanders did far too often in the series, and it ultimately cost them the series. And you know what? Go to the goal they got eliminated on. 9 out of 10 times. Actually, you know what? 10 times out of 10 times, Ilya Sorokin stopping that. It's one of those just fluke goals. He went in, and that, again, if he did it 9 out of those 10 times again, the same play over and over again, he's going to stop it. Unfortunately, these plays happen in hockey. And the shame of it is he had a .929 save percentage. And when you have that save percentage, your team probably should have won the series. But again, in game 1, they only scored 1 goal. In Game 6, they only scored 1 goal. And Marc, I kind of said it to you when I jumped on with you the other day after they got eliminated. Game 6, they did what they had to do, and that was score first. But as I mentioned, as the game went on, they kept getting like an inch away from scoring a goal, hitting posts. Got Spear on his knees at the goal line and stops a puck from going in. And as those started to add up, doubts kind of set in. You said to yourself, okay, it's still a 1-goal game. Hurricanes score, it's 1-1, and now you're clenching your ass cheeks together, and it's anybody's game at that point. So, fortunately, they couldn't find a way to score another goal in that game, which would have put it away. And then, the Hurricanes made the most of it. So overall, I think, after not making the playoffs last year, which kind of surprised people after back-to-back conference final trips, the goal was to get back into the playoffs this year and prove that last year was just kind of an anomaly. And they did that. So I don't want to say you're content with just losing the first round, but they did make progress again, getting back there. It's just unfortunate that I felt that a lot of what they did was self-inflicted. It's not to take anything away from the Hurricanes. They're a great team. They play a great style of hockey. But the series was there. The series was there for the taking, and they shot themselves in the foot. And now it is what it is. You're heading into an off season. I don't think as many questions as the Rangers. I think their roster, will be fairly similar unless, Lou decides to make some, big changes. I do think they'll try to make a couple of moves here or there, but I think the biggest question is does Lane Lambert come back? Even though they made the playoffs this year, I wonder with some of the names out there if Lou might be tempted. So we'll see. If you guys remember, Barry Trotz was fired around, last year, like around May 12th or so kind of around this time. So we'll see what Lou does, but overall, I guess I would say kind of meh on their season. I'm happy they got back in the playoffs, but I just think they could have done more in that first round.
Marc, you muted.
Muted.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I was hearing that my audio is bad. Everybody comment just now in case if it's still just as bad. I don't understand what happened. I went in and I checked it. So anyway, I originally was going to ask whether or not it was a successful season, because the Islanders did do a couple of good things. They returned to the playoffs. They won a couple of games. It looked like they were. I mean, you and Phil had them predicted to win this series, and it kind of looked like they had a good shot at it too. Puck bounces a different way in Game 2, a different way in Game 6. They already had that series won. And of course, Ilya Sorokin is great. Bringing in Bo Horvat's huge. I cannot stress how much bringing in Bo Horvat is huge for the Islanders. Only because now you're at least saying you're going to go out and acquire things. I would like to see, and I'm going to turn this over to Phil right now. I'd like to see if the Islanders can upgrade their wings a little bit, get a little bit more explosiveness out of the wings. Maybe that's Oliver Wahlstrom, maybe it's William Dufour, but I doubt that that's where the answer is. If they can get a play, let's say if they're the ones who got Patrick Kane, it would have been better off because they needed somebody to do stuff like that. Matt Barzal up and down this season. He's either looked great or he's looked like you'd want anyone else on the ice. Brock Nelson, huge season. Gotta give credit to him. And Palmieri looked good whenever he was in the lineup. Phil, your thoughts on the New York Islanders season?
Decent. Kind of what I expected them to do. I thought that they were going to beat Carolina just because of the goaltending advantage. But if they would have played a different team, I don't think I would have seen them as a first-round team or winning in the first round. It just they lack firepower. And at what point does this organization turn around and say Matt Barzal is what he is, and then try to move him? Because he makes entirely too much money to be a 60-point player. Way too much money. And he's got all the skill in the world, but he's just it's $1 million talent, and it's a 10-cent head. And I've said this about him for years. Anthony knows I've said this about him going back to when we were doing Off the Post. Just so talented in terms of pure skill, but the head just isn't there. And I think that's what prevents him from being an elite player, because he has elite level skill, skating, puck handling, the ability to stay on the puck. For a guy as small as he is, he's really hard to knock off the puck. I mean, we've seen that when he scored that through the leg goal against Buffalo. But at what point do you turn around and say, you know what, hey, you may not be the answer. We may need to move on from you. And I know that the Rangers, we were talking about that with Lafreniere, but I think the Islanders need to start having that with Barzal. I don't know if it's the coaching, because he's had trouble scoring under Barry Trotz. He had trouble scoring under Lane Lambert. And you know, you bring in Bo Horvat, and it still doesn't improve the situation. I think it's time for introspection with him. And it's not like you have to worry about developing his skating or anything like that. I think it's up here, and I don't know if you can really ever change that with him. So I mean, if I'm the general manager, if I'm Lou, I secretly go out and I see what you could get for him. And I know that you may have to take a step back unless you could find one of those Taylor Hall type deals where you get another player of like a similar caliber, maybe is a little older. But you're right, you do need to upgrade on wing. And now you brought in Bo Horvat, and I like the deal because I thought that the player would be maybe a 30-goal, 70-point player with the Islanders, but I'm not sure if he does that, because that year up to Vancouver to that point, it was an outlier. He was shooting at 22%, and that's not going to continue. It's simply not sustainable. Alexander Ovechkin, his career year shooting percentage, 15.4%, career best. You're the best goal scorer ever, 15.4%. Bo Horvat ain't keeping that up. No way that's happening. So for me, I would look into trading Barzal. I would. I'm not saying that you have to do it, but feel out, because what other moves are they going to make this team that much better? I mean, Kyle Palmieri really an answer for you? I mean, sure, he's a nice depth forward, but you're not getting 30 goals out of him again. That's not happening again. His best days are past him. Anders Lee, John Tavares isn't coming back, so you're not getting him to score 30 to 40 goals again. That's not happening. Anders Lee just does not play well with other centers that are not named John Tavares. Like, he'll give you 20, 25 goals, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. That maybe not worth $7 million. I mean, I do think he's a little overpaid, but he's still a good complementary player. He's just not what you want to build your offense around. The Islanders need to hit on one of their big prospects or draft picks in these next few years to really get that elite homegrown talent, or they need to go out and make a deal to acquire an elite talent that can help boost their offense, because their offense has been their Achilles heel for I don't know, the better part of a decade, at least, maybe more. So you need to go, and they need to do something, but this team, it's just, they're kind of like the Rangers in the aspect that they're kind of stuck in purgatory. Like, yeah, you can run this same team back, and yeah, you'll probably make the playoffs, maybe win a first-round series, but do you really see this core going back to the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't. Devon Toews is gone. Nick Leddy's gone. I mean, all these guys are gone, and it's not the same team that it was. And you brought in JG Pajot at $5 million, and now you have a third line center making $5 million. And yeah, he's a good player, but is he worth $5 million? I don't think so. Something's gotta shake up in order for this club to be able to take another step forward. And I don't know, just like the Rangers, I don't know if that can happen anytime soon.
Philk is on a roll tonight, Anthony. He's got a lot on his mind. Your thoughts on everything he just said right there?
I mean, trading Barzell is an interesting idea, but here's the thing: his brand new deal kicks in next year. So similar to Panarin, as skilled as they are, I mean, to find a team to take 8 years at the $9.15 million, it would be really hard. I think what's more likely is that Barzell has played. It's granted Tavares was there, so he's a little insulated. But his first year there, he played under Doug Waite, which really had no defensive system. He had 85 points. I think before they would move him, I think if anything, they would get in a coach that doesn't play, because Lambert plays a system that's similar to Trotz.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if they were to bring in, let's say, Laviolette and see what Barzell and Horvat could do under a totally different system and coach. But I have no idea if Lou plans on changing the coach, but I think that's certainly an option to get Barzell going. And Phil mentioned Horvat. And Horvat said in his exit interview, he's like, he holds himself to a high standard. He said that he recognizes he needs to be better. And he said, I don't want to make excuses for myself, but I moved across the country. My family was living in Vancouver. We never got settled. He's like, this coming year, we're settled here. We're in a house. We're going to be here this summer. I'm going to have a training camp to start fresh. And, he's hoping that he bounces back. So for the Islanders to have more success than they did this year, Barzell and Horvat really need to click, and they do need to upgrade their wing situation. Listen, Oliver Wahlstrom, he tore his ACL. He hasn't really broken out yet, obviously. So he's an RFA. So the deal he's going to get right now is going to be a bet on himself deal, probably between 1.5 and 2 million. I don't think he's going to be in a trade. So I think for the Islanders, you might as well put him in the lineup, and hopefully, it finally clicks with him. The guy's got the shot. He could beat goalies clean. He needs to put every other area of his game together. But he might be their best option to find lightning in a bottle, because I don't know, unless they would move out significant salary, I don't know how Lou makes an addition, a high-end forward addition, unless he moves out multiple pieces. Now, listening to Josh Bailey's exit interview and how he was used at the end of the year, he's gone. Whether it be trade or buyout, he's definitely gone. Probably more likely a buyout, but that only saves them about $2.5 million. Obviously, moving him would be better, because then you're talking $5 million freed. But Bailey's going to go, and and as much as I love Zach Parise back and want him back, he's undecided. He said Islanders or retirement. Problem is, if you re-sign Parise, now you literally have the same exact lineup with no forward positions opening. And with Parise not back, that enables Wahlstrom to have a spot in the lineup. So, unless Lou were to do something where he moved out of Pajot, or he moved out of Palmieri, he doesn't have much room to bring in that dynamic scorer. So I am curious to see what he does. And one of my Islander contacts I talked to on like Messenger, I went to school with him. He said, what if you move Brock Nelson? His value is at an all-time high, and you could probably recoup a lot of assets. But I get what he's saying, but do you really want to punt on next season by trading a guy that scored 37 and 36 goals in back-to-back seasons? I don't. So I don't think Brock Nelson should go anywhere.
I think he's more important to the team.
Yeah. So I don't think moving him is the answer either to shake anything up. And Anders Lee, $7 million, and he's the captain on top of that. He's not going anywhere either. So yeah, I'm curious to see what Lou does. Honestly, I think the best move might be to let Lane go, bring in a coach like Laviolette, and dial it back to a totally different system and see what Barzell and Horvat could do together for a full year.
You also you got to worry about Scott Mayfield too. Like Scott Mayfield not going to be back.
UFA.
You're going to have to replace all those minutes on the right-hand side on a pairing, and that's going to be a problem too.
Yeah.
So I mean, Lou's really got his hands tied. To me, I would take a look at moving someone like Pajot. Like I get you like having the matchup center at number 3, but he's 30 years old. He makes $5 million against the cap. And I know Bailey and Varlamov will both probably be gone, and that'll save about $7 million or change there, depending on the buyout for Bailey. But Pajot he had a full no movement, no trade clause up until last season. This season begins a modified no trade clause with a 16-team no trade list. Teams will still take Pajot. You may have to retain a little bit just because he's older and he's still making a lot for a third line center. But there are a lot of teams that could use a center like that are either bubble teams or a team that needs to get over the hump and needs that last, real strong number 3 center. But I would look at moving him too.
And just to get to what we were talking about before, I think Peter Laviolette might be the best option for the New York Islanders. I mean, he was there 20 years ago.
Rangers too.
Rangers too. He might be in a really hot commodity right now because a lot of teams are going to look to him to try to save the franchise and such. So I mean, it's just here's
the question though: would he go back to the Islanders after the way they kind of got rid of him years ago?
Different ownership and different front office. So I would say that, like everything else is different. Like I mean, that was still long. And it was more like Pekka on a power play, getting him out of there. I think there would be a possibility on that. Hell, Paul Maurice went back to Carolina twice, and right now he's a coach that's still coaching. No, there were some of us that predicted the Panthers were going to miss the playoffs.
You know what's funny about the Panthers, by the way? I just thought about this the other day. If being that the Panthers lost that last day of the regular season, the Hurricanes, and the Islanders beat the Canadiens, if the Penguins would have beat Chicago like everyone thought they should have, the Panthers wouldn't even made the playoffs. And here they are upsetting the Bruins. So
it's amazing, Anthony, because guys, keep going at your comments down below. We are actually running a little bit long today because we do have to reflect, guys, and talk about this for a second. Possibly one of the greatest first round in NHL history. When you think about the record-breaking Boston Bruins upset by those Panthers that we just mentioned, Seattle Kraken knocking out the defending champs, as Philk and I both said they were going to do it. The Maple Leafs won their first series since George W. Bush's first term. Rupe Hintz outscoring Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Guys, Philk, I'm going to start with you. And you know what? First, let me start with this question and then go to what are your thoughts on the first round? You just quick to you and quick to Anthony. Which was a bigger upset? Florida upsetting Boston or Columbus sweeping the 19 Lightning?
Okay, so I'll try to explain this as quickly as I possibly can. But the Lightning in 2019 were built the same way that the 96 Red Wings were. They needed that extra grit and toughness to help kind of put them over the hump. And they lacked that, and Columbus exposed them. Boston didn't have those problems. Boston was built like a team that should have won the Stanley Cup, and goaltending ended up being their Achilles heel. So Florida upsetting Boston is bigger, not only just because of that, but also because Boston won 65 games and both broke the win and points records. So, yeah, it's Florida for me.
Anthony, what about you? Which one was bigger?
It's Florida for sure. I mean, Boston had the best season and regular season in NHL history. I mean, they were a team that everyone thought was, going to just cruise through Florida, and that wasn't the case. And what makes it even more outstanding is that the Bruins were up 3-1. They were up 3-1 and let the Panthers back in it. I mean, just unbelievable. And
we're going to be talking more about that in a minute. For me, guys, my money, it's that Columbus swept the Lightning. You're talking about a team that had playoff success. You knew who their goalies were. You knew who everything in their lineup was going to be. Yes, they lacked some grit. Yes, we're agreement on that. But the Tampa went up in game one. I don't know if they saw a lead after the end of game one. Like the rest of that series, I couldn't remember. That's unbelievable. So right back at you, Phil. What are your thoughts on the rest of the first round? By the way, let me just also close and say this. I did see a problem with Boston, and it was their goaltending. That they needed Marc and Swayman to do something. Marc apparently was playing with an injury, and the other part of that is then you go with Swayman in Game 7. If you know Marc couldn't do it, you should have put Swayman in Game 6. Phil, go ahead.
I mean, the first round was awesome. Just a lot of fun, like upsets, and like obviously aside from the Rangers and their loss, and then the Islanders fans and their loss, there was a lot of good hockey to have. Edmonton and LA was a great series. Minnesota and Dallas was a great series. That was a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Vegas and Winnipeg was even a very highly entertaining series, more than I expected. But Toronto and Tampa, that was a real shocker to see Toronto pull off that upset, or basically an upset. Even though I think they had more points technically, Toronto was the team that was the underdog in that series because everybody thought that Tampa was just going to turn it on and they were going to win it. So yeah, a lot of fun, and then even just a lot of real good series in the first round. I hate the fact that the first round is actually over.
Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was really entertaining. I mean, I caught a lot of the Kraken and the Avalanche series. That was a series where I had picked the Avalanche. I think in 4. Boy, was I totally wrong there.
Yeah, why?
As Phil mentioned, the Stars and the Wild series was intense, and it was really interesting. Obviously, the 2 series with our teams focused most on that, but just overall, the hockey overall was really good. And that Maple Leafs Lightning series, because there was a point where you're like, all right, the Maple Leafs might actually do this, and then it's 4-1 Lightning in what was that game? Game 4, and you're like, all right, well, here we go again with the Leafs, and then the Maple Leafs stormed back and won. I think for me that was the clincher there. Once the Maple Leafs won that game, I'm like, I don't see them losing that series. But if they would have wilted and lost that game, the result might have been different. The Lightning might have went on to win that series. I think that was the backbreaker for the Lightning for sure.
And 3 OT winners in that series. And you know what the funny part is, guys? I didn't even mention the LA versus Edmonton series, and that series had several games where one team would go up 3-0, then it would be 3-3, then it'd be 4-3, then it'd be 4-4, and then overtime. Like it's that series was back and forth all over the place. This first round was amazing, and it's what kind of proves Gary Bettman right so far with we don't need to mess with the playoff format. I mean, I wouldn't have minded seeing a team that was the New Jersey Devils right now, but still, I expect that Akira Schmid was going to do an impression of a wall. I definitely thought the Rangers were going to beat up Vitek Vanacek, and they did that. But nonetheless, guys, I mean, this was an outstanding first round. Can't say enough of it. And now we get to go on into a second round that's already off to a good start. Let's get some bar talk because we're going to be going into that, and as well as some other news about our local teams.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. And everybody, welcome back to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. Are you so confident that you're buying everybody around? So just a beer? Or, oh, God, I need a shot. Play along down in the comments below. And, of course, why go to the liquor store when oh, no, I think we got a good one this week. And, yeah, why go to the liquor store when you can have the liquor store come to you? Make it a Drizly night. Click the link down below and have them deliver all the stuff to you. Beer, wine, everything. They could always do that for you. And of course, the Big Apple Hockey Trucker hats, they're in stock. So click the link down below on that. Guys, we're talking about him in the A block. Alexei Lafreniere. Oh, he was pretty much invisible versus the New Jersey Devils. And Phil, I'm going to start with you. The Rangers need to move on from Alexei Lafreniere.
I'm going to say shot. And I'm gonna say shot just because he's 21 years old, and this team. There have been 2 coaches that this team has had that have just basically come out and admitted that they they've done nothing to prioritize the development of the young kids, and they came into a bad situation where there was an accelerated rebuild with expectation, and it's just a poor situation, poor handling, and I do think that he needs to this offseason, and Stephen Valiquette said this, that he needs to basically hit the gym, put down the golf clubs, and really spend all of his time this summer focusing on how he's going to improve in hockey. I've been saying for a while now that he needs to hit the gym, he needs to work on his skating, and he needs to work on his conditioning. So, if he doesn't do that, then I think I think he's definitely gone after this season. But he's going to be tested because this is his third season. I believe that he's going to need a new RFA deal. I don't think he's going to get much just because he hasn't really broken out. But I do see why people would want to move him because of the logjam and the fact that guys like Kreider and Panarin are really immovable on the left side. But it's something does need to change. And I think it has to start with him first. And then if he can't change himself, then I think he's being shown the door.
They don't need to, so that's why I'm going to go with a beer. I think there are times where he hasn't been utilized right, but there are also times where you just look at him and you say to yourself, do you see a top-end player in there? And what holds him back, what Phil mentions, is skating. His skating isn't really that good. He really needs to work on that in the offseason. His conditioning as well. And the other thing that really, and only he can answer, but is how much does he also really want it? He has to be the one that puts in the work to get better. There's another former first overall pick, Alexander Daig, that was more concerned with being an actor. He didn't want to put in the work to reach his potential. And does Lafreniere want to put in the work? I don't know. I mean, 3 seasons, I haven't really seen him improve his skating yet to this point. I think if the Rangers could get fair value for him, or just move him in a deal for a more established player. We mentioned, Alex DeBrincat. I think that might be a win-win for both sides. They get a really good player. Another team gets a player in Lafreniere who's still young and a fresh start. So it's a beer. I don't know. I think go either way. I think Drury might kick the tires on it. Depends on what he can get.
I think if I kick the tires, the answer for me is a shot, though. You're talking about a guy that they're going to retain him with the upside that they're going to pay a $2 million player. I'm going to say he's going to come in at 2.25, maybe even 2.5 million. He just was invisible, and I know what they're trying. I know what everybody's trying to say with this, and always it's Montreal. Every French Canadian player, they're always going to Montreal.
What do you think about that
deal?
Montreal?
What?
What do you think about that deal?
I don't want any. Maybe I'm alone. I don't want any part of Josh Anderson. He's had an up and down career.
Anderson? Who said Josh
Anderson? Yeah, what? Josh Anderson, right? Anderson from Montreal. Would you
with Josh Anderson?
Yeah. and they're not trading their first.
Sorry, that's the first time I've ever laughed at somebody proposing something on here. But man, come on. Josh Anderson?
Not so much Anderson.
Yeah, he did terrible,
did say again, but Lafreniere, the possibility of Lafreniere at 2 points.
He said a first in Anderson.
A first, and it's still, it's terrible.
Yeah, no.
Anderson is a limited player that had one okay season, and Lafreniere is already close to what Anderson is. The only thing that Anderson does is he plays harder and heavier. That's it.
Yeah, and then that goes back to what we were talking about before. And the other thing, Phil, is we mentioned this in the A block. You're going to need your speed. How do you do that? You get younger and you use your guys. They got to find a coach that could actually use these guys, because I'm sick and tired of seeing Jimmy Vesey get promoted up and all these other guys that get promoted up over them.
That's the problem. And that's what it comes down to. Why is Capo Caco not in the top 6? Why is Alexis Lafreniere? I understand it because the right side thing hasn't worked, but Capo Caco should have been in the top 6. And Vincent Trocheck wasn't playing well for a while with the Rangers. Why wasn't Philip Hedl put up there when he was playing well? The veterans never had any accountability held against them under Gallant or under Quinn. They need to start doing this. And that's the problem. It doesn't happen with these guys, and that's why these guys continue to rush. Okay, so Vincent Trocheck really didn't work on a power play. Oh, we're not going to put Alexei Lafreniere in the Ryan Strome spot? Didn't I say that over a year ago that they should have tried to do that?
And then they put Patrick Kane in there.
They put Patrick Kane in there. And then that unit didn't work. It's stupid. It's enough. You need shooters. Change something up. Give these guys more time.
Yeah, but that, again, when you got a coach that's playing for just one win.
This is just as bad the other way. Suzuki's a 66 points. And
I think he's a little bit more
I think that's sarcastic, if anything.
That's got to be, yeah. There's no chance. All right, Anthony, Pierre Engvall, when he came over with the New York Islanders, had a great season. And I think he had the same amount of goals as Patrick Kane did. In the playoffs, in the playoffs, 1 goal, 1 assist. He's a no-brainer. The Islanders need to sign him, right?
It's a beer because multiple reasons. I already said so. Let's say Parise doesn't come back. Wahlstrom takes a spot. You already have so where if you sign Engvall on top of that, where is he playing? That's one. And then 2, you got to remember Pierre Engvall is coming off making $2.25 million. He had a career high of 17 goals. I guarantee you his agent is going to seek out at least $3.5 million. So call it like $1.25 million raise. I think there will be a team out there that gives it to him. And the Islanders have just over $6 million of cap space. So they have to sign a backup goalie, re-sign Wahlstrom, which won't cost much, but I mean just throwing it in there because it's the truth. And then you have the issue of Scott Mayfield. So there's no way you can't. Mayfield's a priority, and if you re-sign Mayfield, that chews up the majority of their cap space. So I don't see how they re-sign Pierre Engvall. So that alone, I'm going to say beer.
Philk.
I'm going to say shot. And they need to stay away from expensive contracts for bottom 6 players. And the reason why the Islanders are in the predicament that they're in is because of the fact that they've signed way too many bottom 6 players to deals that they should have never been given. That identity line, bottom 6 players, and they gave them big money. I mean, Clutterbuck was making how much? Nat Martin was making 2.5 for a while. I mean, the Islanders have done this historically for the better part of a decade, and it's part of why they don't have the availability to go get the big-time scorers when the time comes, because they tied up way too much cap in bottom 6 players. Josh Bailey, $5 million, because he had, one good year playing with John Tavares? I mean, J.G. Pajot, $5 million to be a third-line center. I get he's one of the better third-line centers in the league, but you cannot be paying a third-line center $5 million and expect to be able to upgrade your top 6 in other areas of need when you're paying a luxury price for a third-line center. So, yeah, this is a shot.
You know what? You guys convinced me. I was actually going to go with beer on this one because some of the other things come in there. But also, yeah, you guys convinced me on this one. It's a shot for me, too. And I think one of the reasons why is they already have their bargain. It's Hudson Fasching. Hudson Fasching, 10 goals, and you're getting them for league minimum for 2 years. And that's a great deal. All right. Hey, now you have your Cal Clutterbuck replacement. So there you go. And now he's
already a better player than Clutterbuck. He's not even close at this point. Clutterbuck needs to retire.
Yeah. So there's already so much more that they could be getting now out of that. Guys, we were talking about it before about the Florida Panthers. Games 5 through 7, they obviously had 3 wins. 2 of those wins were in overtime. And of those 3 wins, 2 of them were comeback wins. They also have 26 goals for. That's the most for any team that actually advanced. Oddly enough, the Boston Bruins outscored them in that series. The Panthers' heart and determination will be the difference versus the Maple Leafs. Philk.
I'm going to go with a round on this. I'm going to make a comparison here across board. Remember the 2002 Anaheim Angels, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Way that they came in playing that like desperate baseball down the stretch to make the playoffs, and then they kind of rode that wave all the way to the World Series and won it. I think I'm not saying the Panthers are going to do that, but the Panthers have been playing important hockey for the last 2 months, if not more. And I think that they're in the mindset that every game is their last game. And now that they've gotten here and they made the playoffs, they don't want to let this go. They don't. And they may be undermanned, and they're going to be looked at as the underdog in every series that they're in. But they are bringing something that not many other teams are going to bring, and that's a fight. And they're being dragged into that battle by a guy who in any other year would have won the MVP in Mac Tkachuk. Because Mac Tkachuk's the best player in the playoffs right now. He's got, I think, 14 points through the first 8 games, and he just looks like an absolute force. He looks better than his father could have ever dreamed of looking. And that's scary to say that because I never thought I'd be able to say that about either of the Tkachuk kids. But Mac Tkachuk is just an absolute force right now. He's playing just best in the world quality hockey right now, and I can't believe I'm saying that with Connor McDavid being alive and playing in this playoffs. Mac Tkachuk has been better than McDavid and Draisaitl.
Anthony.
It's around. I think the Panthers right now, they believe in that room, and when you believe like that and you view yourself as the underdog, you become a very dangerous team. And I do think this, and I will say, the Lightning, like I mentioned before, the Maple Leafs came back from 3-1 down 4-1 against the Lightning. That shows heart and determination. But, overall, I think the Panthers have more heart and determination in their game right now than the Maple Leafs. They're a scrappier bunch. Like I said, the Panthers right now kind of view themselves as us against the world, that underdog mentality. And I think the sky's the limit on really how far they could take that. And on top of that, the talent they have. Phil mentioned, Tkachuk's just an absolute monster. Carter Verhaeghe, what a story Carter Verhaeghe has been, even dating back to last year or even the year before that, he started really breaking out. But this is a guy that when the Islanders traded Michael Grabner to the Maple Leafs, the Islanders got back 5 players in that trade. It's 5 for 1. And Verhaeghe was in that deal. He was kind of like an afterthought. I don't even know what happened. They didn't tender him, and he went to Tampa Bay, and then Tampa Bay gave up on him. Now, since he went to Florida, the guy's been a legit goal scorer.
Yeah, that might be the most quiet 40-goal season ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Brandon Montour, 73 points. Are you kidding? What are there ducks? Are there ducks in the Sabres like scratching their heads right now, saying, "Did we give up on this guy a little early?" He's been outstanding. 6 goals in the playoffs so far. You can go on with this team. And what's scary about this is that Alex Barkov isn't really going and being Alex Barkov. Can you imagine if Barkov really plays like he did, a few years ago? Forget about it.
Hey, and you missed somebody who's actually been really good for them and has pretty much been their number 2 defenseman in terms of responsibility. Gustav Forsling.
Yeah, he's been good.
Gustav Forsling has really turned himself into a great. I don't want to say great, but a very, very good defenseman. Oh.
And then tack on top of it, they got a hot goalie with Alex Lyon, and then somehow Sergei Bobrovsky decided to go. Yeah, I remember when it was 2019. This is amazing with them. I'm actually not sure about if I could say around on this. I'm gonna go with it being around anyway, because actually I think they got the talent right now. They got the most goals out of any team that's like I said, that finished the first round, that moved on. So their offense is clicking. And just looking at them, they were a -1 on the goal differential. Brandon Montour became the first Panthers defenseman to score 2 goals in a playoff game. He now has 2 of those games to his credit. They actually think
twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
Twice now.
Time was a 3rd round pick. He was traded for a 3rd-round pick from Buffalo to Florida.
Yeah, Brett, it's amazing what we've gotten with on that. Or just all the things that he's been going through. Yeah, unfortunately, does kind of remind me of an Anton Stroman.
I agree with you, NYR for life. I definitely like that comment.
But the Panthers have been amazing, and now the worst part is they believe. If the Bruins could have snuffed them out, and right now the Maple Leafs are sitting there going, "Well, the Bruins are out, so we got an easy shot at the Stanley Cup."
No,
I don't know about that, buddy.
No, because you took the best team in the league, and now you have all that confidence. The power of belief is a very, very strong power, possibly the strongest.
And moving on to another team that believes. Look at the Seattle Kraken. The Seattle Kraken last night scored 3 goals. No, it's okay. They scored 3 goals in 52 seconds in game 1 after Dallas took a 2-1 lead, 44 shots in an overtime win. Yanni Gourde just throwing it. It's completely surprising everybody, including the cameraman, into the net. The Kraken's offense is going to be too much for the Stars. And I'm going to go beer on this one, guys. I'll start it because I expected to go, wow, the Kraken's offense is going to be amazing in this series. And look at them last night, and they won 5-4. They had that breakout of all the goals. Yeah, they're about middle of the pack in goals. Their defense might be a lot better than what people are giving it credit for. Phil.
I don't think it's the offense that's really the issue with them. I think it's the team speed. I'm going to say shot here. I'm going to go team speed is really the issue. Dallas is not the fastest team in the world. I'm not saying they're slow by any means, but this is sort of like the Rangers and the Devils here. And the Kraken are just a very fast team, and that's why they were able to beat Colorado the way that they did, because they were all over guys like McKinnon and Rantanen and Makar, and they were able to take away time and space from those guys. Not only that, but they play I got to give Dave Haxtell a lot of credit, because that guy has turned his entire career around with this season with this team, because now he looks like a real good coach, taking a roster of an island of misfit toys with a sprinkle of maybe some okay top 6 players, and he's turned this team into something good. His system has worked, and the never say die attitude and the tenacity and the ferocity that team plays with on their forecheck is really what's going to be a problem for Dallas.
Anthony.
Yeah, I'm gonna go shot as well. I mean, I think the speed is more of the issue, but also too the Stars, while not as fast, I mean, they do defend pretty well. They got some solid defensemen, and their goaltender is really good too. So I don't know. I think if Seattle wins a series, it's just going to be because their defense is underrated and is going to keep Dallas at bay, and also their team speed. They're just a much faster team than Dallas. And also remember, the Kraken are still without Jared McCann, who scored 40 goals in the regular season. They're leading point getter and the most prolific scorer. He's been out since that Makar hit against the Avalanche. But if he comes back, that's just another weapon for Dallas to deal with, which, is just that much more of a plus for the Kraken.
That'll be amazing. We'll get to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals ratings very soon, but that'll be amazing if the Kraken end up making it all the way there in their second season, especially after Vegas did it in their first. By the way, guys, starting right now, the New Jersey Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes, game 1 tonight. Carolina's defense is better equipped to handle New Jersey's speed. Mr. Fulkowski.
Round. The Rangers' defense was not mobile. Adam Fox, for as good as a defenseman as he is, his biggest problem is straight line speed. It's not good. His edge work is phenomenal. His pivots and cuts are great. But this Carolina defense between Burns and Chatfield and Slavin and Shea and Pesci, all those guys are mobile and can move. And they're going to give the Devils problems with that. And that's going to be almost 1-0 right there. Marty Necas, if that shot was not blocked, that's a 1-0 game. Oh, my God. But the Hurricanes are a fast team overall, but their defensive unit is very mobile. And I think New Jersey is going to have a lot more problems establishing their forecheck and establishing zone time because of the fact that Carolina's defense can skate with those guys.
Anthony?
I'm going to go round for sure. Carolina, I mean, they're one of the most stingiest teams in the league, and the overspeed of constantly forechecking and hounding the puck. I think that's going to, give New Jersey fits at times. And, I think that as high flying as the Devils are, the Hurricanes are really probably the best team left in the playoffs to kind of shut them down. I think the Devils are going to have their work cut out for them. This is a layup. It's an easy round.
Well, I'll give you that layup right there. And even if you want to include the forwards, we're going to have to make this into a hat trick, because I'm going to take that one. Here comes the hat trick. And guys, it is like they have a lot of defense. And Phil already mentioned Jalen Chatfield, who was going to be my sleeper guy in case of the Rangers advanced to the next round against them. He had a couple big goals against them, and he was starting to come on as the season went on. But you got Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns. These guys know they're going to be tough on the power play. I have one concern in this series for the New Jersey Devils, for the Carolina Hurricanes. Jesper Bratt has been at his best against the Carolina Hurricanes. They're going to have to slow him down. And the fact that the Rangers kind of they handled Jesper Bratt just fine. His first goal of the series, even though he had like several assists, his first goal of the series came as the last one. It was the empty netter. But we'll see whether or not Carolina can keep stifling New Jersey's defense. Hey, guys, how about the NHL draft of 2015, where Connor McDavid went first to the Edmonton Oilers and Buffalo took Jack Eichel number 2? McDavid versus Eichel is going to be the most marketable series of the playoffs, Anthony.
Are you talking about like series that are actually happening, or even potential series that could happen?
That's a good question. We'll go with what's actually happening right now, because I have another series I have to ask you about in a second.
If it's what's actually happening now, I think I have to go with I don't know. I guess I'll go round. I don't know. I mean, I think, if you're talking about just like pure entertaining value, I think the Maple Leafs and the Panthers is a really, really marketable series. But if you're saying it just based on like the star power, the name of McDavid versus Eichel being of where they were drafted, then I guess you go with that. But one thing I will say, if the Maple Leafs were to play the Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals, that would be the NHL's dream. I mean, 2 Canadian teams, McDavid versus Matthews. I think that would be awesome for the league. But
more in a minute.
Yeah, for right now, I guess, yeah, sure.
Phil.
The thing that I come down to with this is marketable as opposed to will they actually market it well. And
yeah, go with the marketable part. It's like that somebody from good marketing agencies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say round just because you have the best player in the world and you should be able to do a lot with that. And then you have his counterpart in the draft, and that's obviously going to be a headline that they're going to hammer home throughout the entire series. You're not going to, and it's probably going to be mentioned multiple times a game. They're going to beat it to death. But, yeah, it is something good to market. I just question how much you can really market at this point, considering that Jack Eichel has not been the player that he should have become.
And that's the thing. I'm going to go to beer on that one. If we're talking about Jack Eichel from the year that was the COVID shortened season that it ended, and then they had the play-in tournament where Buffalo was 25th out of the 24 teams that were ranked higher. Yeah. So they just missed it. But I have to go with that. It could have been as marketable, and Eichel is playing very well right now, but there's other series that are doing better. It's just Not that Eichel hasn't been the superstar, and I do hope the guy eventually gets there back to where he was. That's the only thing, because if you look at these stats, McDavid, 1 goal, 6 assists in 4 games versus Vegas, and Eichel, 1 goal, 4 assists in 4 games versus Edmonton. And by the way, guys, as we were talking about before, who was the last team from Canada to win the Stanley Cup?
1993 Montreal Canadiens.
That is correct. And Anthony alluded to this, spoiling a little bit, but it's not really that much. The NHL could root for the Edmonton Oilers versus the Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup final. Anthony, you brought this up, so why don't we go right back to you?
Yeah, which, by the way, the Calder Memorial Trophy finalists were announced before. It's Beniers, Power, and Stuart Skinner. Just passed that along.
Yeah, and somebody's prediction for Rookie of the Year is going to be right. Because I don't see any way that it's not Matty Beniers.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Beniers.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think around. These are two teams that play in crazed hockey markets. You're talking, the best player in the world. Well, really probably the top 2 best players in the world versus maybe the fourth, depending on how you view it or whatnot. But I think this would be a lot of star power. I think it'd be fun. A team in the Maple Leafs that haven't won since 67, and then
67.
The Oilers who haven't been there since
2006.
Carolina 1-0.
Who scored?
Looks like a defenseman. I think it's Brett Pesce.
All right.
So
Anthony,
I think this series would have everything. It'd have high flying offenses. Not much stellar defense, but I think two fast teams playing against each other. I think it would be a great series to watch.
Philk?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, with American viewers, though, I don't know how many people are really going to care that much because it's not 2 American markets, it's 2 Canadian markets. So I wonder really what that does for the viewership. I think it's good for the game to have McDavid and Matthews in the finals. But, I mean, you ask the average American where the hell Edmonton is, and they probably won't know. They'll probably, or some people joke and say Siberia or, something like that. They'll know Toronto. Everyone knows Toronto. But, I mean, in terms of Canadian, and actual hockey circles, they're 2 big crazy hockey markets. But for American ratings, I don't think it does what Anthony was saying it would do. So I'm going to say beer because in a way yes, and in another way no.
The good thing about it is right away the Stanley Cup final is going to be on TNT this year, and they are going to be Sean, that's right on that one.
See?
It's going to be on TNT, so it's already going to be a more entertaining product to begin with. That's for one. The other thing is TNT will be smart enough to say if it is the Maple Leafs, the best American player versus the best Canadian player, bang, you got your audience. And a lot of people would probably tune in and be like, who is this Austin Matthews, the casual viewer that doesn't know? And they'd have to keep on hyping up Austin Matthews because he is the best American player in the game right now. Although right now, Matthew Tkachuk has got a great argument about that one. It's Jason Robertson as well. I mean, while I'm at it, I could keep on going with this list. There's a lot of impressive Americans that are playing the game right now. But the thing about it is going to be a 0 in the ratings as far as like the Canadian markets. It's going to be hugely rated in Canada, but you can't lose the U.S. markets completely. I wouldn't exactly root for it, but there are ways of making this successful. So that's the easiest way to talk about that one. Guys, again, that's the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. So we're going to let some of you guys get over to your – I don't know if I messed up, Anthony. I don't know. To be honest, we haven't played it all that much this time around. So thanks, everybody, for joining us at Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. We're going to take some of your questions and get down to some of those. we'll take your questions. I mean, I can't believe Snoop Dogg is in to buy the Senators. Is that really?
I saw that. A group.
Yeah.
He's with the.
He's like, there might be a different off the mark that I might have to do soon enough. I got to write the script for it. And yes, it has to do with a potential coach that might be coming in. Would Vegas really move the needle in the U.S.? I do think Vegas did. I'd have to double check how they moved the needle, but they were against Ovechkin when they did it. Some people asked if they could take subways from Toronto to Edmonton. By the way, that's a little bit surprising. Where's the actual number you have right here? Puck, yeah. Pete is saying the New Jersey Devils have 13 shot attempts. They're 13-1 in shot attempts for Carolina. So David was saying, have you been to the United States recently? I doubt they even know where Toronto is beyond Canada. Well, it's really a stone's throw from Buffalo. So, I mean, it shouldn't even be that hard. But TO's a hell of a city. That's one of the places I have to go see a game next year. I would love to go see a game. Like, Anthony, with your team, with the Islanders out of the playoffs, so where would you want to go see a game right now?
Vegas.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, because have you never been?
No, never been.
All right.
I've never been to a game there. I've been there plenty of times, but I would like to see.
All right, but to Vegas, I mean, a game now, obviously.
Yeah.
I've actually been in that arena now 3 times, twice, once for a Vegas game, once for the All-Star game, as you guys know, and once before they even had the hockey team there for a Guns N' Roses concert. I do have to say, one of the things that would interest me is going to one of those, the Maple Leafs outdoor games and just watching it on the big screen with all the fans. I know in Calgary, they were doing that last year. They have Thunder Rally in Tampa. I would love to see one of those events. Phil, where would you go see a game right now?
Wow. That's actually a really good question. I mean, I got to see the All-Star game with you in Vegas, which was cool. That was a unique experience. Wow. I've seen games in Boston, Washington, Jersey. I want to go check one out in Amalie. I've heard Amalie is a good place to see one in Tampa. I would love to San Jose. I mean, that arena gets loud. Like, I would like to see a playoff game in there. I want to see Toronto as well. Those are really probably like the top 3 I could think of right now.
By the way, Sean is asking, what do you guys think of the chances of Gallant returning to as the Rangers coach next season? We covered this sort of in the A block. I'd be shocked if he makes to the end of the week.
Yeah, I think he's out sooner than later. I really do think he's out real soon. And like I said, I have some inside information, and it's from someone I trust that I've known for a long time, who is actually connected within the organization. I'm not going to say who he's connected to, but
I start a couple of these, Chris. If you have a question, go ahead and ask the question. I'm picking out yours because after all, like this one, just to mention, Puck, saying you have to one team to win the cup right now. Who's your choice? Edmonton for Phil. Anthony, who was yours?
Edmonton.
I despise Edmonton because their goaltending is always so terrible. It's not even anything against McDavid. Right now, let me give you I'm stalling to give myself a second before answering. I got the Maple Leafs 28% from who you guys want to see win. 22% for the Dallas Stars, 41% say Edmonton, and 9% say the Golden Knights. That's out of the 4 of the 8 teams remaining. You go right down your own that you want to see. But I kind of want to see the Dallas Stars, even though, again, I'm not a Pete DeBoer fan as well. Maybe Florida, because the way they're playing now I'm starting to get inspired.
Florida would be my number 2 at this point.
Yeah. All right, Tommy is asking, does Ottman's potentially coming up next year make a move for Laffy more likely? No, Phil is saying. And there's a chance.
No guarantee he even makes the roster from opening night. So,
yeah. Or you know what the Rangers could do? They could tell him he's going to make the roster opening night and then send him down anyway. All right, Chris is asking about Babcock. I actually, by the way, when you brought that up, I did nod and I pointed to you on that one. Phil, what do you think about Babcock being a coach of the Rangers?
I know that he got canned in Toronto because of some bullying, if you will. I don't know the extent of everything that went on with that, but I don't think he has to be reinstated. And knowing what I know about James Dolan and how he just doesn't care about any type of backlash that he would face for bringing in someone like that, I could see it. I could see it, and I think it would be the move that he makes because he likes to bring in big names. And Babcock's a proven winner, and if he were to bring him in, he would be the type of guy that would really whip that soft leadership group into shape.
Anthony?
Yeah, I haven't heard much about, like, because he was a free agent coach last summer, and I didn't really hear his name too much on potential openings. So I don't know what his stance is right now. If he wants to get back into coaching this year, or he's happy doing what he's doing. As far as the rest of the question, I don't see them dumping Lafreniere and I love how he calls him Crapo, but in jest. I don't see them dumping Lafreniere and Kakko. I could
Carolina, let's go.
I could see maybe one of them, but the Rangers aren't moving both of them.
I don't see them moving either one of those guys. I think their cost control is a little bit too much to their own importance, unless Lafreniere somehow. I mean, I think, and by the way, E, thanks. D. Lee saying I would honestly rather listen to Marc and the boys do play-by-play over this baseball guy. Yeah, we'd be a lot better. Do you think that the reason is for letting Gallant go do the exit views in interviews if they plan on firing him? They're going to do the exit interviews first.
Regardless, yeah, they did. When Quinn got fired, they did the exit interviews, and then the players weren't really fully endorsing of Quinn either. That Trouba interview was damning. That Trouba interview was really, really damning. Like, he did nothing to hide the fact that he did not want to say anything good about him. He was like, yeah, well, he's played, and yeah.
Well, I think, Phil, the most damning interview came from a guy that wasn't on the Rangers roster at the time, Ryan Spooner, saying that he wasn't.
No, I'm not talking about Quinn. I'm talking about Gallant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Trooper interview, that's pretty damning.
Trooper, yeah, that was bad. That was really bad.
All right. I got to go against you on this one, Richie. I'm sorry. What about Drury? 4 years now, bad drafts, home trades.
4 years.
What does he warrant? Seattle has passed us by. Okay, first off, he's only been a GM for 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
He was the AGM with Gorton, the greatest GM in Rangers history. Can't believe they ever let him go. And it was he basically got Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko for a first, a second, and a fourth round pick, and the rotting corpse of Sammy Blais. So he didn't give up much. They still have a first round pick for this year and next year, and they're fine. A little bit of this has to be. It's disappointing being up 2 games to none, but there's a lot of advantages that they had. Look, it sucks. It does suck. But I don't think Chris Drury is the guy I'm coming at for this, because the problem was the coach made no adjustments. He made
With
zero adjustment.
right there.
Now,
And-
I know I agree with you guys. I don't think Drury should be under any sort of duress.
He's
However,
not going to be.
no,
I could tell you right now, he's not going to be.
he's not. But just to kind of expound off maybe what Richard said is the one thing. So he trades for Tarasenko, and I get why he got Kane. You know, it's a sexy name, basically the best American player of all time, begging to
He
play.
forced
for
himself
franchise.
there for nothing.
Yeah. You could get him. You can get him for cheap. But and I actually think I know. I think you just mentioned his name in a tweet earlier, Phil. And I know I said it to Marc before they got Kane. But when Drury looked at that roster, why wouldn't he have just got Barbashev instead? I think he would have added Jam to the lineup. He would have added more a balanced type of attack when it comes to
The only
hockey.
thing I'll say in regard to that, and it was in the thread that I was talking about, but Barbashev went for Zach Dean, who was a very late round pick in 2021, who was picked 14 spots after Brennan Othman. Zach Dean hasn't had the junior career that Brennan Othman has had so far. But I tell you right now, you would have to give up a higher caliber prospect to get someone like Ivan Barbashev, or you would have had to give up more assets. So that's probably part of why I could see Chris Drury not doing it, because he didn't want to give all that up. But at the same time, it would have been a better fit because of the fact that they needed a guy with a motor like Barbashev. Or, you know what? Why not even bring back Frank Vetrano? I mean, at that point.
Well, he was on a multi-year deal, so he wasn't going to be a rental. So
he wasn't going to be a rental. But, you know, I mean, look at what you could have looked at what it would have cost to get someone like him, even though I don't think Anaheim wanted to give him up. And I'm not convinced that he was a big difference maker, but the Rangers needed some sort of speed in that lineup. And they needed some speed and some scoring and a guy that was going to shoot. And Vetrano, actually, you know, he might have helped a little bit. I'm not sure he was the answer, but he would have helped a little bit.
Now, with by the way, with Babcock, I need more information on why he's out, because if it's just him being a stern coach and they consider that bullying, then that's about it. But I would say he put a kick in the ass with a lot of players. That's what Joe Graves is saying. I love the idea. Babcock, all these players with no move clauses would waive them in no time. Yeah. And
I'm with David on that one. Bertuzzi should have been the guy. I mean, that would have been somebody who really could have came in and really would have helped make a difference and bring a bigger, heavier game suited for the playoffs.
More corner battles.
Or even Max Domi would have been good.
And he had 5 goals in that series.
If they had Vetrano and Kopp versus Tarasenko and Kane, would have made a difference. Could have made a difference in the first round. After that is really when those two disappeared. Lesser Vetrano to a lesser extent, because he was actually okay against Tampa. He was one of their better forwards against Tampa. But Kopp, after the Pittsburgh series, was horrendous. He was not good after that Pittsburgh series.
Yeah, he was.
Like Aaron wasn't.
Real bad.
So,
I think ESPN is doing their best to lower the crowd noise by putting them to sleep. Sean McDonough's not a good. He's just not a good play-by-play guy.
New Jersey has one shot in this game.
One shot. The guy. No, sorry, Richard. No, Vetrano does not drive play.
No, he does not. Vetrano is not a facilitator, and I don't know where you're getting that from. I don't.
But we agree on Bertuzzi. Scheifele is a difference maker, and what the thing is, the Rangers.
Yeah, but you know what though? Scheifele got exposed in that Vegas series by Vegas's speed, so he'd be right at the same point in this series because he's not a super fast skater either. He's not slow by any means, but he's not a burner.
No, there's going to be change. There are going to be changes in Winnipeg.
Yeah,
I think Scheifele, Hellebuck, Wheeler. They all have 1 year left on their deals. I think Winnipeg is going to do some maneuvering here. And I like Scheifele as a player for the Rangers and really a lot of teams. But the thing is, I think he's 30 years old, going on 31. So not that he's old, but the Jets are going to ask for a lot in return. And what do you want to give up for Mark Scheifele? Because they're going to, for Scheifele, they're going to probably want maybe, Lafreniere or someone like that. And I'm for trading Lafreniere, but do you want to trade him for a guy who's, like I said, going to be 31 and only is a year away from unrestricted free agency? I don't think that's the move to move him in. In a deal for DeBrincat, yes, different story. But Scheifele, I'm not sure if it makes sense for Scheifele. So
I also got to say, even though he did move to the wing at the second part of the season, he didn't finish the season all that well either. So that was another thing. I think you're wedded to your centers, and the Rangers need a little bit more toughness. What do you think? What moves do you think the Islanders are going to make realistically, Anthony?
Well, I think they're going to try to trade Bailey's contract. He's got 1 year left at $5 million. So for a team like the Coyotes or the Ducks who need help reaching the cap floor, that shouldn't be hard. But if they can't, they're definitely going to buy him out. So that's one move for sure. And then aside from that, they're either going to re-sign Mayfield or replace him with a comparable defenseman, and maybe try to upgrade at the wing somehow. That's what I think they're looking at doing. And actually, you know what the Islanders' most important piece of offseason business might be? It's to extend Ilya Sorokin. He's available to sign an extension come July 1st. So I think that's something that Lou is going to try to get done this summer. And, I think it's almost a must. You don't want your number one goaltender and one of the best goalies in the league going into next season, being a pending UFA. So I think they're going to try to extend Ilya Sorokin to a long-term deal.
Modine was asking, was Old Man Kane playing with a hockey stick or a cane during the series? He's proof that the Rangers need to upgrade their speed. You can't go with what they did. And I bought into him. I mean, a lot of people bought into him. Urinating Tree had the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup over the Edmonton Oilers, which was my exact prediction. Now, not so much. The Devils' speed was too much for them. I figured inexperience and goaltending would hurt them. Not only that, it didn't hurt them. Does Sorokin make more than Igor? Yes, he does.
I think he's going. It's similar to how Shesterkin signed this deal a year or two ago. Naturally, as time goes on, contracts get high. Just how like Nathan McKinnon came up for a contract, and he got $100,000 more than Shesterkin. It's just
McDavid,
McDavid. That's what I meant. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think Sorokin probably will, and then when Shesterkin's up for a contract in a couple of years, I think then he'll get even more than Sorokin. Just usually how it goes. So. Yeah,
and also Sorokin's contract had his UFA years coming beforehand.
Yeah,
before Shesterkin's. Here's the question I have for you: what is the top dollar you go with him on?
I mean, you gotta assume $8 million is probably the starting point. I think
eight and a half is as high as I go.
Yeah, well, I think that's the starting point. I think that's what and his agent's going to have all the leverage in the world. I mean, the guy finished second in save percentage last year. This year he was third. If you take out the games played requirement, he's second again. So the guy's second in the league in save percentage 2 years in a row. League leader in shutouts. He deserves it. He deserves all the money he can get, and he's gonna get a boatload. He is going to get a boatload.
But I don't think he goes to $9 million. I don't see any reason that they do it. I think they need more term than more AAV than that.
Maybe, yeah.
No contract has worked out.
I agree.
For now, people could say the Lundqvist contract didn't work out. It did. $8.5 million. He played basically all those seasons, and he was still a top goaltender. And they kept kicking the can down the curb. If they would have re-signed him earlier at that contract after his ELC, then it would have been a bargain. He would have won a Vezina and been a finalist 3 different times just under that one contract. Instead, they kept knocking it back, and in 2014, he got the 8-year deal.
Yeah.
So, or 2013, I should say, because in 2014 it kicked in right after that. Going to this one, I'd love to see Tarasenko and Mikkola back, but it's going to be really difficult. Would the Rangers let Miller walk if he wants too much money? He didn't have a great series. Tommy, there's no chance the Rangers are letting Miller walk. Miller is an RFA without arbitration rights.
Yeah,
he's not going to be able to go anywhere.
So when you're asking the question, would they let him walk? That means you're insinuating that they would not qualify him, making him a UFA. There's 0% shot of that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't understand why they did that in Chicago with Kubalik and Strome. I think both of them.
Yeah,
for RFAs, they didn't qualify them.
Yeah,
what's the advantage of that? Just qualify them and then trade them. I still can't. I go back on that. Chris was asking, Quenneville has to be cleared to play in the NHL, to coach in the NHL.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Because look, I just wonder if Stan Bowman's got that same restriction. He's the one that everything was right on top of him with. And again, you know what? If you guys if they went to the cops, that's above. People say stuff like that. That's above my pay grade. I can't do that. Tommy's saying give him the DPH years. That's a little too much.
Would you trade Lafreniere for Nikolai Ehlers?
No. Nikolai Ehlers is injured way too much. You got to think about Lafreniere's upside. That's where it comes down.
I mean, Nikolai Ehlers, he only played 45 games this year. Had 38 points, though, in those 45 games, and he's a burner. You talking about speed, he is a burner.
He is a guy that does great work when he plays. The problem is those words when he plays, and that's just part of the problem with that.
That's fair.
Will the Islanders make a front office change? That I think I'm going to just kick that to you, but I think that's going to be up to Lou, isn't it?
Well, first question is I would not call up Lou and ask him that question. I think he would have a guy in a suit at your door about 10 minutes later. But you know what? There's been the whole talk about what his status is, if he's signed or whatnot. But Marc, I think that was put to bed about any question about Lou's future when they signed Hudson Fasching on exit day. If you're a general manager on your way out, I mean, I don't think you'd be re-signing guys. So I think that just shows that Lou is staying, or at the very least, gonna just be the president and bring in a new GM. But I don't, based on Hudson Fasching re-signing, I don't see it.
Yeah, I kind of could see your point on that one. I don't think it's going to be the case. I think, but then again, I think if Lou is stepping aside, Lou has already groomed somebody. So that's one thing I would think about with that one. Richie's saying too early to give up on Loft, but he must improve his skating and his shooting. No, go ahead. We'll just go with this one.
He's saying
Chris is asking, what do you think about not extending Halak or finding a backup, but giving Talon Boyko at 6'8" a chance? Such a big body, as we see like Schmid. I think the Rangers wait too long to get these players up. 25. Problem is, it takes a while to develop a goalie in the NHL.
Halak, I mean, if it's not Halak, I think they are going to bring back another veteran backup. I think as you see in the NHL now, I mean, unless you do have a team like the Rangers and you have an elite goalie like Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky in Tampa. Otherwise, you really need a good backup who could step in and play. So, if Shesterkin got hurt, you really want a guy like that as your guy going forward. So I think they're going to, if not Halak, I think they're going to bring in another veteran backup to back up Shesterkin.
There's a great question. By the way, there's a great question on this. How do we improve this team? I'm actually going to take a step back and look at everything. My first thing is coaching. It would frustrate me. I actually yelled at a couple people. I didn't want to do that. It's just, it was frustrating watching him not do anything all the time. So David was saying trade Loft for Kyle Connor seems fair to me. I would love Kyle Connor on this team, but again, it's actually he'd be a player that would be great. I don't know if you can make that deal.
That's not happening. Kyle Connor's the Rangers would have to add much more to Lafreniere to get Kyle Connor. And honestly,
right, at least Lafreniere in a first. I mean, even if you try blowing it up, there's going to be teams lining up to give him.
That's one guy. That's one guy that the Jets are absolutely not trading. Kyle Connor's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
it's another one. I mean, I don't see why the Kings would do that. Kempe had 41 goals this year, 35 last year. Signed for 3 more years. The Kings are absolutely not doing that deal.
Yeah, and we got about 3 more minutes, and then we're gonna have to head out after that, guys. And
Adrian Kempe is very underrated. I mean, Phil talked about before about one of the more underrated guys scored 40 goals. I forget who we were talking about. If it was it wasn't McCann.
No, it was Verhaeghe is what he said.
Verhaeghe. Adrian Kempe's right up there too. I mean, the guy scored 41 goals this year. I mean, and he's relatively an unknown. So very good player, and he burns too. He's got a lot of speed. It would be a great deal for the Rangers, but there's no way the Kings are making that deal.
Core, just to say this, I'm gonna leave all the Quenneville questions off to the side. If you're talking about a guy that's a great coach, fine. I talk about this with another player in pro sports, that there's going to be a great distraction coming in, and right away. Now, granted, you get to worry about this all summer. You're going to get the backlash. If you did this, let's say, for instance, they did this right at the draft, right after the draft. That's when they announce it. Then the coach doesn't do anything for 2 more months. Free agency doesn't become a thing. You're still going to have to answer questions about the scandal for the next, I don't know how long. And you hope that people forget, but your social media is gonna rip them a new one. It's going to be a distraction. And I think X's and O's, this guy is one of the best coaches of all time. But
I agree.
Yeah. Modena saying trade Shesterkin for shit players. Well, I know he called him Shitsturkin, but clearly for players to round out the team better. Canes advance with Ronta and Anderson.
You know, this is ridiculous. The Rangers aren't doing that. But you know the only reason why I'm addressing this, actually, because I saw a tweet the other day. It was a tweet that said Sorokin, Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, Ullmark, teams with those elite goalies all eliminated. And then had another list. It was like Anderson, Schmid, Campbell, Grubauer as goalies who are still in the playoffs.
All right, I'll bite. Let's go with that. So Ullmark, again, as I said before, has never been this far down the road in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Not many goalies have endured that path and were able to do it. Even Vasilevsky kind of had some bumps. He played in the Stanley Cup Finals before he ever played a first-round game because he played in the finals in 2015 for a little bit. But Ullmark has had such a spectacular season. Even had a goal. He even scored a goal. But the one thing I kept coming back to is he never won a playoff series. Never mind a playoff game. He never won a playoff game.
Yeah.
And right now he only has 3 more playoff wins than me and you. So that's still a huge thing. And he's actually having fun with this, as he just said below.
It was just funny, though, because the tweet was basically saying you could have all these elite goalies. Look, they're not playing. And then look at the teams playing, and they all have average or subpar goalies.
Right. Now, even let's go back the last 10 years or 12 years. You have Tim Thomas, who was he was a Vezina Trophy winner. That's 2011. 2012, Quick won, and that was before Quick exploded. 2013, Corey Crawford. 2014, Jonathan Quick. 2015, Corey Crawford. Corey Crawford wasn't winning any Vezinas. He wasn't the best goalie in the league by any means. 2016, Matt Murray. 2017, Matt Murray. Inexpensive ones. The expensive goalie was actually his backup because that was Marc-Andre Fleury. 2018 was Braden Holtby, but Braden Holtby wasn't as good as what he was the previous few seasons before that. He was still getting paid like it. And then 2019 was Jordan Binnington, who was a rookie on an entry-level deal. 2020 was Vasilevsky. 2021, Vasilevsky. 2022 was Darcy Kemper, who really didn't break the bank. And now 2023, it's probably going to be a cheap alternative unless it's Jake Ottinger in Dallas. You're not looking at guys that are really Vezina Trophy caliber goaltenders. Now, here's where Stater Survival is right about this. Coaches win cups because, as D is saying, defense wins cups. Now, the whole reason why you need to have as much structure from your coach as you possibly can. I still can't tell you what the Rangers structure was, and I've been watching this team intensely, trying to be a good analyst the last 2 years or however long, because going back to when I founded All Things Rangers. Now, the thing about this is you can get away with a lesser talented goalie. That goalie still has to be good. Don't get me wrong. It's just and look, it's not Igor Shesterkin's fault on any of this. The guy had a .931 save percentage. If I told you my goalie had a .931 save percentage at a 1.96 goals against average in a series, you look at me and go, so they won in 5, right? I mean, Henrik Lundqvist, that happened with him all the time. And Richie, this is where you're right about this one too. Great defenses can make goalies look good. But by the way, Richie, this is the other part of it. You probably could have played for that Canadiens team, but Ken Dryden is still one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. It's almost like their structure was go out and go play. Yeah. Joe Graves is saying their structure was to go out and go play. I mean, Shesty was standing on his head and doing everything they could. Carolina right now is trying to pin you in your own end. So are the Devils. The Rangers need, and by the way, let's go back to you, State of Survival. Let's go with this one right there. Let's go back to that same that same thing. 2010. Hold on. Rupe Hintz and Jake Ottinger for Igor Shesterkin and Alexei Lafreniere. Who says no? I say Dallas says no, Anthony, because I think Dallas, this is a game we like to play. We're going to be doing a lot more in the offseason. It's who says no? We're going to give you fake trades, playoff matchups. We're even going to give you free agent signings. That's going to be in the next couple weeks. So let's go back to what you just said, State. When was the last time a crappy coach won a Stanley Cup? All right. Let me go back to post-lockout. Okay. 2000. I can actually give it to you. It's probably Dan Bylsma, but let's see. 2006, Peter Laviolette. 2007, Randy Carlyle. 2008, Mike Babcock. 2009, Dan Bylsma, who took over for Michel Therrien with a month left to go to the season. 2010 was Joe Quenneville winning his first cup. 2011, Claude Julien. 2012, Daryl Sutter. 2013, Joel Quenneville. 2014, Daryl Sutter. 2015, Joel Quenneville. Mike Sullivan winning in 2016, you can make that argument, but then he came right back in 2017 and was even really good when they would be missing Crosby and such. 2018, Barry Trotz. 2019, all right, Craig Berube. If you want to argue that's your least talented coach, but on the other hand, even he got his players to buy in. They played a very great system, and they were really good in 2020 before going into what the lockout was. But then obviously they were taken out by Vancouver. They were taken out by Vancouver. They were Demco'd in that series, as a lot of people were saying. So all right, so we have 2021 Cooper, or 2021 Cooper. 2022 Cooper, 2020 Cooper, 21 Cooper, 2022 Jared Bednar. And Jared Bednar, a lot of people think is a great coach. So you can injuries and bad penalties is what sunk them in this series. And I don't blame Alexander Georgiev. How about that one, everybody? I'm not blaming Alexander Georgiev. All right. Guys, I'm going to start playing the song to get us out of here. Because yeah, you know what? This is I almost did it as well as Phil can do the cover guys for NHL hockey. But as Chris is saying right here, the quote from Jack Hughes, doesn't matter who's in our net, meaning they will help him out with their speed, yet the Rangers defense expect Statues to handle it. Yeah, because that also goes back into the way Lindy Ruff's team played under Dominic Hasek. Under Hasek, they would take more offensive chances. Hell, even Matt Barzal was talking about it with Ilya Sorokin. I would say Bilesma over Berube, but because Berube seemed to learn more from his first tenure with the Flyers and end up being a better one. Bilesma never amounted to anything after that. And Modine saying it's Keenan. Well, the one thing I have to say with Ranger fans is, remember, Keenan was negotiating his way out of town before that. So, I mean, yeah, Rich is saying Sather won 4 cups with Gretzky's Oilers. Yeah, but Sather also drafted that team and ran the bench, and then Messier's Oilers in 1990. Mikey D is saying, I think Drury not talking today isn't a good sign for Gallant. They need an X's and O's coach, and I am right there with you. Yeah, well, we actually need to get Steven on again. We've been talking about him doing a collab. But who was huge when Chatfield. Chatfield was huge when Slavin was out. All right. Let's get the music queued up and get ready to go. I have a girlfriend that wants sushi, and I'd like to get it for her because I already played the Adam Sandler Fluid enough. We're trying to get more. But there's a lot of things when it comes to this team that was frustrating. And look, we're all feeling it right now. We all wish we could see it, but I wish there was a definitive problem. I wish I could just do the magic wand and say it's Gerard Gallant and then that's it. But that's not the truth. It's not just Gerard Gallant. There were other problems that are in there. And right now, the New York Rangers, and I've said this in the A block, the New York Rangers right now are saddled with $19.5 million of Trouba and Panarin. And yes, you get rid of Panarin, you're going to have to figure out how to replace 96 points. But the thing about that is, I don't think that matters. I don't think it matters how you replace the 96 points because, I mean, it was... you're not going to get anything in the playoffs. You're just not. So, there are guys that can handle it in the playoffs. Maybe a new coach could come in here. Hell, Mike Keenan got Alexei Kovalev to really step up in the playoffs. That was a great thing. I'm not sure if that's really the case. So we'll see about that one. There's going to be a lot more coverage that we're going to have for the playoffs. I'm definitely doing the 60-second reviews, guys. And we have a lot more that we got. We got a lot of hockey talk coming, and I can't wait for the draft, and I can't wait for free agency when it comes. So, I'm going to be away on July 1st. God damn it. All right. Guys, thank you everybody very much, and we're going to be picking it up later on in the week. Look for more of the 60-second reviews. I'm going to try to stick this in big games, and I don't want to waste your time looking at that before, but woo, Kakaniemi. 3-0. All right. Marc, take it easy. And the Marc with the C's always rule. Guys, everybody, thanks. And again, as Modine's saying, take care, folks. Look on the bright side. We're all live and watching hockey. Let's go Rangers. And yes, that's going to be a great addition. And by the way, I'd have to say the Carolina Hurricanes, especially if, D and Pete were talking about it before. They might look at it and say there's a chance to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Vanacek coming in. Does Vanacek make a difference in this series? Because I didn't think he made it over the Rangers. So if that's the case, Carolina can make short work of them. All right, guys. Everybody, thank you very much once again for joining us. I'm going to have the series breakdown soon enough on BigAppleHockeyPodcast.com. Keep that, keep on the lookout for that, or the season breakdown, I should say. Because you know what? A lot of stuff went right for the Rangers. Problem is, playoffs. That the last 5 games was an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. All right, guys. Again, thank you very much. And as the song says, goodbye. Time to go.